In early October, a blizzard moved across a multi-state region, including northwest Nebraska. That storm had a devastating impact for many livestock producers who lost significant percentages of their animals. As we made our way here Monday, we stopped near Chadron to talk with Scott Cotton, a UNL Extension educator in Dawes County. While we know this area of South Dakota saw incredible loss totals as well, for the purpose of this interview, we'll focus only on Nebraska. The affected region, like many in the Midwest, suffered through a seemingly never-ending drought, but was also impacted by wildfires last year that took out grasses and fence line. And now, with more than 3,000 head of livestock killed from the October storm, there's no help from a livestock indemnity program, since that wasn't continued along with the latest Farm Bill extension. As sobering as it is to hear about the damage, it can't compare to the reality of living every day with the results.
Since the storm, the last 2 weeks is fairly stable. We have recorded 3,086 head of livestock lost, and we estimate that there's another 200 to 400 that are not reported yet. Folks are waiting to see what the new Farm Bill may offer. They don't see a lot of point in reporting stuff if there's no opportunity to get help.
What's the process been for disposing of the carcasses in this area?
The producers initially are responsible for all of it. The USDA has set aside some money through the NRCS EQIP funds to help them dispose of livestock in locations that it might threaten watersheds and the environment. And the producers have aggressively taken to taking care of their dead and their injured. In fact, if you drive across the landscape, you won't see many of them left. There are a few, but compared to the 2 weeks after the storm where you could drive almost anywhere in this area and see livestock laying, it's greatly improved, but it's undertaken a great effort by the producers and a great cost.
What help has come in since this hit more than a few weeks ago? What help has come in from outside of this area to producers here?
We've had a number of sale yards that have held revolving heifer sales where they'd sell the same heifer over and over, and people would donate that money to the Cattlemen's Relief Fund. The fund, which was set up under the Chadron Community Foundation, has set aside money where people can apply for it or be nominated for it. And those funds are to help them with burial costs, with immediate family needs, with emergency medical needs for both family and for the livestock.
How serious are the financial needs here? I mean, for a person that doesn't know this industry and doesn't know this area, can you just kind of extrapolate what that means?
The direct cost of livestock loss is somewhere between 5 and 6 million. The projected cost for the lost calf and lamb crop for next year is about a 1.5 million lost for the next year. To regain those herds to an operational level will take 3 to 4 years. And the impact to superstructure, to the trees and the power lines is several million. On top of all of that, you have to add the cost of disposing of livestock, which we feel is over $1 million already. And you're talking about a population that's really only 200 families.
To those 200 families, what's the cost? I mean, what are they all up against right now?
Most of these families that have been impacted are probably looking at, probably $250,000 to $500,000 per family.
Have banks been willing to rework loans or make some ground in between to try and help out?
I believe the bankers are doing everything they could. We haven't talked to them recently. They do have some limitations in what flexibility they have, because often as not, the operating loans for these cattlemen were the chattel, or the collateral per se was the cattle, which are now, a lot of them are gone. So there's limited options, but I think the bankers are trying to work options and meeting with families aggressively, to say the very least, to try to find options.
You've had a terrible string of circumstances really here. You've had a multi-year drought, there have been wildfires in this area, and now this snowstorm that's really decimated the cattle population. What does it mean overall for the landscape of agriculture in this part of the state?
About 91% of the agriculture in this northwestern part of the state, north of the Niobrara River, is driven by range cow-calf operations. Of that 90% of the economics in our communities, probably we're down to about 38% of our normal earning power.
What about any opportunities for extra income for some of these producers? Are there any ways to make a little extra money in the meantime?
There is. We have some opportunities in this area that you don't have everywhere. Some for tourism because of the historic and the scenic area around us. Some for leasing cattle out if we get the fences back up. Those that we do have individuals that still have about 600 and some miles of fences down from the fires. Once they get those up, they could at least reestablish possibly part of their cash flow by leasing their grass out next year to other people. And there is a huge opportunity here because when a system's disturbed, it provides openings. And we've been looking for openings where ranchers felt the need to bring in young producers to help them. They have the need now. We're hoping that they embrace that need and bring young people on board. What's the catch? The catch is that if you're a young producer and you're wanting to get into business, taking a percentage of the herd isn't a good idea right now. It's going to have to be some other kind of system.
You're part of an emergency network. Have you been able to gain any positives from this storm in terms of what you can maybe learn from it to use in the future?
Through the Extension Disaster Education Network, we'd worked a number of these large blizzards around the United States since the early 90s, and we used those resources and that response protocol to get help here as fast as we could. At the same time, each lesson that you learn from a disaster serves as a guideline on what not to do and what to do if disasters happen to other places. So we have a system across the country where other extension specialists know who's been through this type of system before and would call them for advice or support or even responding to the area.